The galaxy forgot humanity until the Cryo-Chamber released its most deadly mind. Part 1. The Sleeper Wakes. The ship was old, very old. It drifted through space like a dead whale floating in a black ocean. No lights, no power, just metal and silence. Captain Vela of the Villani salvage crew looked at the strange symbols on the hull. She had seen many dead ships in her 40 years of work, but this one was different. The design was wrong. The metal was a type she had never seen before, and the symbols meant nothing to her translator. "What species built this?" asked her second officer, a young male named Roth. "Unknown," Vela said. "But if it is this old and still in one piece, the technology inside could be worth a fortune." They cut through the airlock and entered. The air was stale but breathable. Emergency lights flickered on as their movement triggered ancient sensors. The halls were narrow, built for creatures smaller than Villani. Dust covered everything. Roth found the first body. It was inside a glass pod, frozen solid. The creature was small, with soft skin and no scales. 2 arms, 2 legs, a flat face with forward-facing eyes. It was clearly dead. The pod had failed long ago. They found more pods, hundreds of them, row after row of dead creatures, their faces frozen in peaceful sleep that had become eternal death. "What a waste," Vela muttered. Whatever these things were, they all died in their sleep. Then Roth called out from the far end of the chamber. "Captain, this one is different." Vela walked over. One pod still had power. Green lights blinked on its surface. Inside, a male creature floated in blue liquid. His eyes were closed, but the machines said he was alive. "One survivor," Vela said. "After all this time, interesting." She pressed the release button. The pod hissed. The liquid drained. The creature's eyes opened. Kang Do-yun took his first breath in over 2,000 years. Everything hurt. His lungs burned. His muscles screamed. He fell forward out of the pod and hit the cold floor. Above him stood 2 tall beings with gray scales, yellow eyes, and uniforms he did not recognize. They spoke to him. The words meant nothing. His translator implant was old, designed for languages that probably no longer existed. He stayed quiet. He watched. He listened. Over the next few days, Do-yun learned. The Villani gave him food and water. They ran tests on him. They talked about him like he was an animal, not knowing he was already starting to understand their language. His mind had always worked fast. It was why the Korean military had recruited him. It was why he had earned the name the Ghost of Busan during the AI uprising. He could see patterns others missed. He could learn what others could not. By the 5th day, he understood enough to know he was in danger. The Villani planned to sell him to researchers. He was a curiosity, nothing more, a primitive creature from a forgotten age. But Do-yun also learned something else, something that made his blood run cold. Humanity was gone. Not just his ship, not just his colony mission, all of humanity. When he tried to search for Earth for human colonies for any record of his species, he found nothing. It was as if humans had never existed. 2,000 years. His people had been erased from the galaxy in 2,000 years. Do-hyun did not show his fear. He did not show his anger. He watched. He waited. He planned. On the 7th day, the Villani ship entered dangerous space. Vela was a smuggler, Do-hyun realized. She was carrying illegal cargo through a war zone between 2 great empires. And now, 3 pirate ships blocked their path. Vela tried to run. The pirates were faster. They fired warning shots. Vela's ship was old and slow. She had no weapons strong enough to fight back. Do-hyun walked onto the bridge. Vela turned to him with annoyance. "Get back to your cell, primitive." "I can save your ship," Do-hyun said in broken Villani. Everyone stared at him. Roth laughed. "It speaks." I can save your ship, Do-hyun repeated. In return, you give me freedom. You give me a small transport. You let me go. Vela looked at the pirate ships growing closer on her screen. She looked at this small, soft creature with no claws, no scales, no natural weapons of any kind. What can you possibly do? She asked. Do-hyun smiled. It was not a warm smile. Let me show you. He asked for the ship's layout, the cargo manifest, the communication frequencies, information that seemed useless. Vela gave it to him, expecting nothing. Do-hyun worked for 10 minutes. He spoke commands to the crew. Move this cargo here. Vent atmosphere in that section. Send this message on this frequency. Adjust speed by exactly 3%. The crew obeyed, confused but desperate. The pirates moved in for the kill. Then the first pirate ship exploded. Do-hyun had vented cargo at exactly the right moment, creating a debris field that hit the pirates' engines. The second ship tried to dodge and crashed into the third. The third ship, receiving a fake distress signal on their own frequency, thought they were under attack by a hidden enemy and fled. 3 ships, 10 minutes, 0 weapons fired. Vela stood in silence. Her crew stood in silence. On the screens, 2 pirate ships burned while the third ran away. "What are you?" Vela whispered. Do-hyun looked at her. His eyes were cold, dark, and ancient. In that moment, Vela felt something she had not felt in years. Fear. Deep, primal fear. "I am human," Do-hyun said. "I am what my people created to survive. Now, I believe we had a deal." Vela nodded slowly. She ordered her crew to prepare a transport for him. As Do-hyun walked away, Roth looked at his captain. "Should we report this? Tell someone what we found?" Vela watched the small figure disappear down the corridor. She thought about the dead pods, hundreds of them. If even one of those creatures could do this, what could hundreds do? What could thousands do? "No," she said quietly. "We found nothing. We saw nothing. And we will forget this ever happened." But she knew, deep in her bones, that the galaxy would not be able to forget for long. The humans were back. And whatever had erased them from history was about to learn that some things cannot stay buried forever. The galaxy forgot humanity until the Cryo-Chamber released its most deadly mind. Part 2, The Forgotten War Kairos 7, was a space station built for secrets. It floated in neutral space, belonging to no empire, following no laws. Criminals came here. Spies came here. People who wanted to disappear came here. It was the perfect place for a man who should not exist. Do-hyun had been free for 3 months. He had traded his skills for money, information, and survival. He fixed problems for people who could not go to authorities. He never killed unless necessary. But he was always dangerous. And soon, people learned to respect the quiet human who solved impossible problems. But Do-hyun was not just surviving. He was searching for answers about what happened to his people, searching for other survivors, searching for truth in a galaxy that seemed determined to keep it hidden. The answers came in pieces, like broken glass scattered across a dark floor. First, he learned about the silence protocols. 2,000 years ago, the Galactic Council had voted to erase all records of humanity. Every book, every file, every mention of humans was destroyed. Teaching human history became illegal. Speaking of humans became dangerous. In 1 generation, humanity became a myth. In 2 generations, they became nothing at all. But why? Do-hyun needed to know why. The answer came from an old Korath merchant who traded in forbidden information. The merchant was dying of age and no longer cared about laws. "The humans fought a war," the old Korath said, his voice weak and raspy, "against the 3 elder races, the Vorn, the Cathari, the Silan. Each one had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Each one was more powerful than any species alive today. And the humans destroyed them all." Do-Yun felt cold. Destroyed? Completely. In less than 50 years, the humans broke 3 civilizations that had existed since before most species learned to make fire. The elder races begged for peace. They surrendered everything. And then... The merchant coughed. Then the humans vanished. No one knows why, but the Galactic Council was so terrified that they erased humanity from existence. They were afraid other species would learn human tactics, human strategies, human ways of war. Do-Hyun sat in silence for a long time after the merchant finished. His people had been conquerors. His people had been so dangerous that the entire galaxy chose to forget them rather than risk creating another species like them. What kind of monsters had humanity become? He was still thinking about this when the woman found him. She walked into the bar where Do-Yun was drinking alone. She was human. Short black hair. Sharp eyes. A face that showed nothing but hid everything. She sat down across from him without asking permission. "Kang Do-Hyun," she said in Korean, "the ghost of Busan. I have been looking for you for 2 years." Do-Hyun did not show his surprise. "Who are you?" "Yoon Sora. I was a psychologist. I specialized in interrogation and negotiation. I was on Colony Ship 7, frozen with 3,000 others." She paused. "I woke up 2 years before you. Alone. Everyone else on my ship was dead." Do-Hyun studied her. Her Korean was perfect, with a Seoul accent. Her eyes were tired but intelligent. She was telling the truth. "How did you survive?" he asked. "The same way you did. By being useful. By being careful." She leaned forward. "But I did not come here just to survive, Do-Hyun. I came to find others like us. And I found something bigger." She placed a small device on the table. A map appeared in the air above it. Dozens of dots scattered across the galaxy. "These are the locations of other cryo-ships," Sora said. "Ships like yours and mine. There could be hundreds of sleepers still alive out there, maybe thousands. The galaxy does not know it yet, but humanity is not extinct. We are just sleeping." Do-Hyun looked at the map. Hope was a dangerous thing. He had tried not to feel it, but seeing those dots, knowing that other humans might be waiting to be saved, he could not stop his heart from beating faster. "Why tell me this?" he asked. "Because I cannot wake them alone, and because you are not just any survivor, Do-Hyun. I read the old military files before they were erased. You were the best strategist humanity ever produced. You won battles that should have been impossible. You saved millions of lives." Sora's eyes were intense. "I can find our people, but I need someone who can protect them, someone who can plan for the dangers ahead." Before Do-Hyun could answer, alarms screamed through the station. Red lights flashed. People began running. A cold voice spoke over the station's speakers. "Attention! This station is now under Korath military control. All residents will submit to identity scanning. Anyone who resists will be executed." Sora grabbed Do-Hyun's arm. "They are looking for us. Someone talked. We need to move now." They ran through the panicked crowds. Korath soldiers poured into the station, their armor black and their weapons hot. They were stopping everyone, scanning faces, checking identities. Do-Hyun's mind worked fast. The station layout. The patrol patterns, the weaknesses in Korath formation tactics. He saw everything at once, like a puzzle solving itself. "Follow me," he said. He led Sora through maintenance tunnels, past security checkpoints, around soldier patrols. Twice they almost got caught. Twice Do-Hyun found a way out that no one else would have seen. They reached the docking bay. Korath soldiers blocked the exits. There was no way through. Sora looked at Do-Hyun. What now? Do-Hyun looked at the crowd of terrified civilians being held at gunpoint. He looked at the Korath commander shouting orders. He looked at the power cables running along the ceiling. "Now," he said quietly, I remind them why the galaxy was afraid of us. 10 minutes later, the Korath soldiers were unconscious on the floor. The power grid had overloaded in exactly the right places. The commander's own weapons had been turned against his troops by civilians who had suddenly received very specific instructions from a strange, calm voice. Not a single person had died. As Do-hyun and Sora flew away in a stolen ship, she looked at him with new eyes. "The stories about you were not exaggerated," she said. Do-hyun did not answer. He was watching the stars, thinking about the sleepers waiting to be awakened, thinking about the galaxy that feared his kind, thinking about what humanity would have to become to survive in a universe that wanted them forgotten. Behind them, a Korath admiral reviewed the security footage of their escape. She watched the human male calmly dismantle her best soldiers without firing a single shot. "Find the other sleepers," she ordered her officers. "Find them before he does. And pray to whatever gods you believe in that they are not all like him." The hunt for humanity had begun. The galaxy forgot humanity until the Cryo-Chamber released its most deadly mind. Part 3, Gathering the Ghosts. The dead zone stretched across 1,000 light-years of space. No one went there. No one came back if they did. Ancient weapons still floated in the darkness, waiting to kill anything that moved. Debris from a war 2,000 years old still burned with radiation. It was a graveyard of civilizations, a scar on the face of the galaxy. It was also the last place humanity had called home. Do-hyun piloted their small ship through the dead zone's outer edge. Around them, broken warships drifted like sleeping giants. Some were alien designs, massive and strange. Others were smaller, more efficient, built for speed and death. Human ships. "The defense systems are still active," Sora said, watching her scanner. "Automated weapons, drones, mines, all still working after 2,000 years. "They were built to last," Do-hyun said. He entered a code into the communication system. An old code from before the freeze, a code that only humans would know. The weapons powered down. The drones pulled back. A path opened through the destruction. Sora stared at him. "How did you know that would work?" "I helped design the defense network before I was frozen." Do-hyun's voice was flat. "I never thought I would use it again." They flew deeper into the dead zone. More human ships appeared. Colony vessels like the ones they had slept on, military cruisers with guns still pointed at enemies long dead, and in the center of everything, a massive station, dark and silent. "Humanity's last fortress," Do-hyun said quietly. "This is where we made our final stand. This is where we won the war." They docked and entered the station. The halls were empty but clean. Preservation systems had kept everything frozen in time. They walked past memorials listing the names of the dead. Millions of names. Tens of millions. In the central chamber, they found more cryopods. These ones were military-grade, stronger than the civilian models. 23 pods still showed life signs. 23 survivors, Sora whispered, after all this time. They began the awakening process. One by one, humans opened their eyes for the first time in 2 millennia. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, each one confused, frightened, and then filled with a terrible understanding as they learned the truth. Humanity was gone. The galaxy had forgotten them. They were the last of their kind. 3 of the awakened stood out from the others. Park Ji-soo had been a combat medic. Her hands had saved more soldiers than anyone could count, but it was her knowledge of alien biology that made her valuable. During the war, she had learned how every species in the galaxy lived, breathed, and died. Now that knowledge could help humanity survive among strangers. Baek Tae-hyung was an engineer, but not just any engineer. He had designed humanity's most terrible weapons, the bombs that had cracked worlds, the plagues that had killed billions. He woke up screaming from nightmares and refused to speak for the first 3 days. Han Yunji had been a diplomat. At the end of the war, she had negotiated humanity's surrender to the elder races. But the surrender had been a trap. While the enemy celebrated their victory, human ships had destroyed their home worlds from the inside. Yunji had fooled 3 civilizations into their own extinction. These were the people who had won humanity's war. These were the people the galaxy still feared. On the 5th day, Do-Yun gathered everyone in the station's command center. A map of the galaxy floated in the air between them. "The Vellani Empire and the Korath Collective are at war," he said. "Both sides are killing millions. Both sides are looking for a weapon to end the fighting. And both sides have heard rumors about awakened humans." "They want to use us," Jisoo said bitterly, "just like before." "Yes, but we have a choice to make." Do-Hyun pointed at the map. "We can hide here forever and let the galaxy forget us again. We can join one side and become their weapon, or we can do something different." Yunji stepped forward. "What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting we do not fight for anyone. I am suggesting we make war itself impossible." Do-Hyun's eyes were hard. "We have the skills. We have the knowledge. We can cripple both sides without killing. We can force them to make peace." Tae-hyung finally spoke. His voice was raw and broken. "I will not build weapons again. I will not kill again. I would rather die." "I am not asking you to kill," Do-Hyun said gently. "I am asking you to save lives. You know how to destroy, Tae-hyung. That means you know how to protect. You know where the weak points are. You know how to shut things down without bloodshed." Tae-hyung looked at his hands. The hands that had built bombs. The hands that still trembled with guilt. "You want me to undo what I created? I want you to use what you know for something better." Silence filled the room. Each human thought about what they had done during the war. The terrible things. The necessary things. The things that still haunted their dreams. Yunji spoke first. "I spent my life lying and manipulating. But if I can use those skills to bring peace instead of death, maybe I can finally sleep without seeing their faces." Jisoo nodded slowly. "I became a medic because I wanted to heal. I am tired of watching people die. If there is a way to stop the killing, I will help." One by one, the others agreed. Even Tae-hyung, his eyes wet with tears, finally nodded. Do-Hyun felt something he had not felt since waking up. Pride. Not in himself, but in his people. They had been weapons once. Now they chose to be something more. "Then we begin," he said. "We gather more sleepers. We build our strength. And when we are ready, we show the galaxy that humanity did not come back to conquer." He paused. "We came back to remind them what peace looks like." A week later, a fleet of human ships emerged from the dead zone. Old ships, repaired and armed with ancient weapons. The galaxy had not seen human vessels in 2,000 years. Do-Hyun broadcast on every frequency, in every language. His voice reached every corner of the galaxy. "This is the human remnant. We remember what you made us do. We remember what we became. We remember everything." His voice grew cold. "Now we will remind you what we chose not to do, and you will learn to be grateful." Across the galaxy, alarms screamed. Admirals scrambled fleets, governments panicked, the humans had returned, and they were angry. The galaxy forgot humanity, until the Cryo-Chamber released its most deadly mind. Part 4. The Ghost Doctrine. The Vellani supply convoy was the largest in their fleet's history. 50 ships carrying weapons, food, and medicine to the front lines. 10,000 soldiers guarded it. Nothing could stop it. The humans stopped it in 3 hours. No one died. Do-Hyun made sure of that. His teams disabled engines without explosions. They hacked computer systems without crashes. They locked soldiers in their own barracks without firing a single shot, and when it was over, the supplies were gone, not stolen. Delivered to refugee camps on both sides of the war. The Villani generals screamed for revenge, but there was no one to take revenge on. The humans had vanished like ghosts. 2 days later, the same thing happened to a Korath weapons factory, then a Villani communication hub, then a Korath fuel depot. One target after another, both sides attacked equally. No deaths, no warnings, just chaos. This was the ghost doctrine. Do-hyun had designed it carefully. Humanity would not fight for the Villani or the Korath. Instead, they would make war too expensive to continue. Every supply line that was cut meant soldiers without food. Every factory that was shut down meant weapons that would never be built. Every fuel depot that was emptied meant ships that could not fly. The empires could rebuild. But rebuilding took time, money, and energy. And every time they rebuilt, the humans would strike again. Within 3 months, both empires were bleeding credits. Their economies struggled. Their people grew angry. Protests erupted on a dozen worlds. Why were they fighting a war they could not win? Why were their leaders wasting resources on battles that solved nothing? The Galactic Council, silent for centuries, finally called an emergency meeting. They had no choice. The humans were forcing them to act. Do-hyun watched the council meeting from a hidden location. Around him, his team waited for orders. Sora, Jisoo, Taehyung, Yoonji. And one new face that had changed everything. Shin Yuna was 23 years old. She had been a child of 8 when her cryo ship crashed on an alien world. The aliens had found her, raised her, and never known what she was. She grew up thinking she was the only human in the universe, a mistake, a freak, an orphan species with no history and no home. Then Do-hyun found her. Now Yuna sat in the corner watching the council with eyes that understood both worlds. She had lived as an alien. She thought like an alien, but her heart beat with human blood, and her mind burned with human questions. "They are afraid," Yuna said, pointing at the council members on the screen. "Look at their body language. The Villani delegate keeps touching her throat, a sign of stress in her species. The Korath representative has not blinked in 4 minutes. He is terrified, but trying to hide it." "Good," Yoonji said. "Fear makes people listen." "Fear also makes people dangerous," Yuna replied. Her voice was quiet but strong. "They are afraid of us because they do not understand us. They see monsters from their history books. They do not see people who want peace." Do-hyun turned to look at her. "What do you suggest?" "We need to show them who we really are, not through war, but through action, not through fear, but through proof." Yuna stood up. "The council is unsealing the old records, the true history of the human war. If we let them see only the destruction, they will hate us forever. But if we show them the whole story, they might understand." "The whole story?" Sora asked. "During the war, humans offered peace 7 times, Yuna said. 7 times the elder races refused. They wanted to exterminate humanity completely. They bombed our colonies. They killed our children. They gave us no choice." She paused. "We did not start that war. We ended it. There is a difference." The room went silent. Everyone knew the old stories. But hearing them from Yuna, who had grown up among aliens, who understood how they thought, made them feel different, real. Do-hyun nodded slowly. "You want to change the story? I want to tell the true story, all of it, the crimes we committed, the crimes committed against us. Let the galaxy judge us with complete information, not fragments and fear." It was a risk, showing humanity's darkness alongside its light, admitting the terrible things they had done while explaining why they had done them. The galaxy might hate them more, or they might finally see humans as something other than monsters. Do-hyun made his decision. Do it. Release everything, every record. every file, every truth. The next day, the galaxy learned what really happened 2,000 years ago. They learned about the massacre at New Sol, where Korath ships burned 3 million human civilians alive. They learned about the plague the Vellani ancestors released on human worlds, killing billions of children. They learned about the 7 peace offers and 7 rejections. They learned that humanity had begged for mercy before they became the thing that showed no mercy. They also learned about the things humans did in revenge, the broken worlds, the destroyed civilizations, the elder races who ceased to exist because of human rage. It was ugly, all of it. But it was true. Across the galaxy, people argued. Some said the humans deserved extinction. Others said they had only done what anyone would do to survive. The debate raged for weeks, and in that chaos, something unexpected happened. The Vellani and Korath stopped fighting. Not officially, but soldiers on both sides began to refuse orders. Why should they kill each other when the real enemy might be waiting in the darkness? Why should they waste lives on an old war when new threats had awakened? The Galactic Council called for peace talks. Real peace talks, not the fake negotiations of the past. They invited both empires to send representatives. They also invited the humans. Yunji prepared for the talks. This was what she was born to do. Negotiate, persuade, find the words that would turn enemies into allies. But Do-Yun received a warning from his spies. Extremists from both empires were planning to attack the peace summit. They would kill the human delegation and blame it on the other side. The war would continue. The humans would be destroyed. Everything would go back to the way it was. Sora wanted to cancel the meeting. Jisoo wanted to warn the council. Taehyung wanted to fight. Do-Yun shook his head. "We go to the summit," he said. "We let them try to kill us, and we show the galaxy what happens when humans choose mercy instead of revenge." Yunji stared at him. "You want to walk into a trap?" "I want to prove that we are not the monsters they remember. I want to prove that we can be attacked and still choose peace." Do-Yun looked at each of his people. "They need to see us bleed and forgive. That is the only way they will ever trust us." Yuna smiled sadly. "You are asking us to be better than we were, better than anyone expects." "I am asking us to be human," Do-Hyun said. "The best version of what that word can mean." One by one they agreed, even knowing they might die, even knowing the trap waiting for them. The peace summit would happen. And humanity would show the galaxy something it had never seen before, a species strong enough to destroy everything, choosing to save it instead. The galaxy forgot humanity, until the Cryo-Chamber released its most deadly mind. Bracket Part 5. The Price of Memory. The Peace Summit was held on an ancient human station. It had been preserved for 2,000 years as a museum of the extinct species. Now, for the first time since humanity's disappearance, humans walked its halls again. Do-Hyun stood at the center of the great chamber. Around him sat representatives from the Vellani Empire, the Korath Collective, and 40 other species. Cameras broadcast his image to every corner of the galaxy. Trillions of beings watched the humans speak. "You erased us from history," Do-Yun began. His voice was calm, steady. "You burned our books. You destroyed our monuments. You made it illegal to speak our names. And you know what? I understand why." The chamber went silent. This was not what they expected. "We were terrible in our rage. When your ancestors tried to exterminate us, we became exactly what they feared. We broke worlds. We ended civilizations. We became monsters because you gave us no other choice." Do-Yun paused. "But that is not why we came back." He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of beings who had been taught to hate and fear his kind. "We came back because the galaxy is broken. You fight endless wars over resources, territory, and pride. Your people suffer, your children die, and for what? So your leaders can claim victory in battles that solve nothing?" He shook his head. We were like you once. We fought each other for centuries. We almost destroyed ourselves. But we learned something. We learned that true strength is not the power to kill. It is the power to stop. A Korath admiral laughed. Pretty words from the species that destroyed 3 elder races. Yes, Do-hyun agreed. We destroyed them. And we have regretted it every day since. We won the war but lost our souls. That is why we chose to disappear. We could not trust ourselves with the power we had. His voice softened. But we are back now. Not to conquer, not to rule. We are back to show you another way. The chamber erupted in argument. Some shouted that humans could not be trusted. Others demanded proof of their peaceful intentions. The noise grew until it was almost overwhelming. Then the lights went out. When they came back on, armed soldiers stood in every doorway. Vellani and Korath extremists working together for the first time in history. Their weapons pointed at the human delegation. The humans die today, the lead assassin announced. And tomorrow, the war continues. Chaos exploded. Delegates ran for cover. Guards tried to fight but were quickly overwhelmed. The assassins moved toward Do-hyun and his people with murder in their eyes. Yoonji stepped in front of the first attacker. He shot her. The blast hit her shoulder and she fell, blood spreading across the floor. The galaxy watched in horror. This was it. The humans would finally show their true nature. They would kill everyone in revenge. The cycle of violence would continue forever. Jisoo ran to Yoonji, but instead of crying out for vengeance, she began treating the wound. Her hands moved with practiced skill, saving her friend's life even as enemies surrounded them. Taehyung grabbed the nearest weapon console. His fingers flew across the controls. He could have activated the station's ancient defenses. He could have killed every attacker in seconds. Instead, he locked all weapons on every side. No one could shoot anymore. The guns simply stopped working. The assassins tried to fight with their hands. Do-hyun's people could have killed them easily. They were trained warriors, survivors of humanity's greatest battles. But they did not kill. They disabled. They restrained. They showed mercy to people who had shown them none. When it was over, the assassins lay on the floor, unconscious but alive. Yoonji was wounded but stable, and the cameras had recorded everything. Yuna stood up and faced the galaxy. "You saw what happened," she said. "You saw us attacked without reason. You saw us bleed. You saw us have every excuse to kill." Her voice was strong and clear. "And you saw us choose not to. This is who we are now. This is who we want to be." She walked to one of the fallen assassins. He was young, barely an adult by his species' standards. Fear filled his eyes as the human approached. Yuna knelt beside him. "Why did you want us dead?" she asked softly. "Because you are monsters," he spat. "Because you destroyed everything." "We were monsters," Yuna agreed. "We did terrible things. But that was 2,000 years ago. Those humans are dead. We are their children and we are trying to be better." She reached out and touched his face gently. "Do you want to know a secret? I was raised by your people. A Korath family found me as a child and loved me as their own. I know your songs. I know your prayers. I know that your grandmother used to say that mercy is the truest form of strength." The assassin's eyes widened. "How do you know that?" "Because she said it to me. Every night before I slept." Yuna smiled. "Let us show you that she was right." The galaxy watched in silence. This was not the humanity they remembered. This was something new, something different, something that might actually be worth trusting. The peace treaty was signed 3 days later. The Vellani and Korath agreed to end their war. The Galactic Council granted humanity a small system on the edge of known space, a place to rebuild and grow, not because they were forced to, but because they finally believed humans might deserve a second chance. Yuna was chosen as humanity's first ambassador to the galaxy. She would bridge both worlds, human and alien, helping others understand that the monsters from history books were gone. In their place stood people who wanted nothing more than to live in peace. A month after the summit, Do-hyun visited a memorial on the old station. It listed the names of every human who had died during the war and after, millions of names, carved into black stone, stretching across walls that seemed to go on forever. Sora found him there, standing in silence before the names. "Do you think it was worth it?" she asked. "Everything we did? The fighting? The fear? The blood?" Do-hyun thought about the question. He thought about the people he had lost, the things he had done, the nightmares that still woke him every night. He thought about the galaxy slowly healing, ships carrying treaties instead of weapons, children growing up without the shadow of war. "Ask me in 1,000 years," he said finally, "if they remember us as anything other than ghosts." He started to walk away. Then he stopped, and for the first time since Sora had known him, Do-hyun smiled. A real smile, warm and full of hope. "But I think maybe we gave them a chance to be better than we were, a chance to remember our mistakes and avoid repeating them." He looked at the stars through the station window. "And maybe that is enough. Maybe that is all any of us can really leave behind." Sora walked beside him, out of the memorial, into the light. Behind them, the names of the dead kept their silent watch. But ahead of them, the galaxy stretched out in infinite possibility. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors, not as destroyers, but as something the galaxy had never expected. Hope. The end.